Good morning. It is July 18 and I am doing the Peachcliff Loop Trail. It's about 15 kilometers, I'm guessing, south of Penticton. Rocky and piney. It's supposed to be a 6-kilometer loop trail, but knowing me, I'll probably make it into a 10-kilometer loop trail. I am going to pay extra careful attention on navigating with Alltrails and see if I can do better today. Do you remember when your mom or dad had the talk with you? Well, God had to have the talk with Moses. And then Moses had to have the talk with the Israelites. First off, God reiterates that He is the Lord their God, and to keep His statutes and ordinances was their only salvation. In the midst of sin and degradation, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, God wanted His people to shine forth as lights in the world. So far, it's pretty easy walking. See, I came from that way. There's that trail I could go down. There's that trail, but I'm pretty sure I go this way. The Israelites were affected by pagan rituals in Egypt, and where they were going, to the land of Canaan, was also very pagan. So God essentially had a talk with them about the birds and the bees, and what appropriate sexual behavior was. And He covered every scenario possible. Well, I'm having to backtrack already. I tell you, you got to keep your Alltrails app on all the time. You will go off trail. Oh man, I'm so disappointed. Okay, I went right and you're supposed to go this way. My. That's a lesson learned again. How many times will I have to learn it? Yeah, that trail I was on was way too easy, and I knew it. There's some climbing ahead. The King James must be a very Victorian-influenced translation, because when it says, "Thou shalt not uncover their nakedness," is just a polite way of describing sexual relations. So I think this bears going over, as it most certainly pertains to humans in our day and age. Oh, anybody want some apples? An old apple tree. These weeds are mighty tall. So here's a little spur trail they recommend taking on Alltrails. I'm not going off trail here. So I think it goes up to some peak or something. So I guess I better take it. Oh, I bet it goes up to that tower up there. I do believe that is Okanagan Falls down there, and that's Skaha Lake, the south end of the lake. Oh yeah, I'm basically going from one shade tree to the next for a rest in between times. It is steep and warm. Well, am I glad I did the climb? Now that I'm on top, yes, it was worth it. Whoa, that's an incredible view. They put orchards way on the mountainside. That's fun. And I was right. To the cell tower. Orchards and vineyards tucked everywhere. Right behind a sawmill. Very pretty. I made it down without falling. Yay. Back on solid ground. This sure is rattlesnake territory though, I'm fearing. So to put it bluntly and plainly, you are not to have sex with your mother or father, or your stepmother or father, or your sister, or your grandchildren, or your aunt or your uncle, or your daughter-in-law, or your son-in-law for that matter, or your brother or sister-in-law, or your cousins, or your neighbor's wife, nor are you to lie with mankind as you do with womankind, nor with any animals. And I can't even imagine what people are thinking, why on earth they would do that. Nor are you to have sex with a woman that is menstruating. Then God says, if you commit these sins, you will be cut off and vomited out of the land. He's pretty serious. God led Israel into the land of Canaan, knowing the temptations that awaited them there, but they were forbidden to mingle with them or to learn their ways. It was to be a time of testing for them, but God did tell them ahead of time what to avoid. And like I said earlier, it was to be a chance for the Israelites to be a light and a witness for the pagan peoples. I got a ditch path situation. Kind of awkward going. In the land of Canaan where they were going, marriage was held in low esteem, and women were treated as cattle. This chapter in Leviticus gives a true picture of the condition among the heathen, and against all this, God warns Israel. The fact that God found it necessary to issue such a warning with all its stark details emphasizes the danger into which they were coming, and for them to be aware. In the beginning, God created one man and one woman, thus establishing ideal conditions for man's blessing and comfort. God's plan would preserve the home, the nation, and the chastity of both sexes. Marriage is not dishonorable, and it is not sinful. It is a divine institution as much as the Sabbath, and like it, is to be held in high esteem. As the Sabbath demands reverence and holiness for its proper observance, so does marriage. Both can be desecrated, or both can be a blessing. Can you see where I was way up there? I hope that impresses you a lot. It does me. That was a workout. Reverence for the body and its functions is the theme of this chapter in Leviticus. Reverence for one's body and other people's bodies. the teeniest, tiniest cacti I've ever seen. Then God ends by saying, I am the Lord your God. The chapter ends as it began, with this affirmation, designed to impress upon them the holiness of God and the high standard that he held before them. Do you think these laws apply to us today? Can you imagine the pain and mental anguish that would be thwarted if people only heeded this counsel and warning of God? A couple of chapters later, we read that if people did commit these sexual sins, they were to be put to death, usually by stoning. That's how serious God viewed these sins. And that's how special God views his children. He was upholding the person who was taken advantage of and raped. And it was usually the woman. When we get to the Gospels and read how the Pharisees wanted to stone the woman caught in adultery in the very act, but Jesus knew, and he said, he who is without sin may cast the first stone. Those men were guilty of the same thing. We may be appalled that God would kill people for sexual crimes, but like I've said, he wanted a holy people, one that would be a witness to their pagan neighbors. And things could really get out of control if sexual sins were allowed to continue. I'm glad that I'm not God, and I'll just trust that his ways are righteous. Well, the healing hiker rating for the Peachcliff Loop Trail is I'd be hard-pressed to give it a 2 out of 5. I am so not impressed. If you didn't have a phone, you'd be hooped. And even with a phone, I did not do the complete trail. I followed the main route, and I took a shortcut apparently, but anyways, I don't care. I'm happy I got my talk done. I'm glad that I climbed to the cell towers. That was pretty epic. But other than that, they need better signage. Absolutely, so we know where we're going and what we're looking at. I have no idea what the Peach Cliffs are. Anyway, thanks for watching. I know this was a tough topic today. My guess is that 90% of the world, if not more, has been the victim of some kind of sexual abuse, misconduct. So sad. God knows what he's talking about.